Oh, hi. Welcome to our beach. This is Follyfield Beach, right outside of the Admiral's Roost. And I decided this last weekend to go ahead and make a big old sandcastle. And I was kind of gonna make a sandcastle building tutorial video for you guys, so you can kind of learn my technique, the way I like to do it. And the first thing is choosing your spot, and I choose a spot that's right at the point where the tide is at. You can see the water's coming in right up to me where I'm building it. And the reason I do that, well, it's on the way the tide is on its way out. So the reason I do that is I got this water. You can see I just dug a hole and I made a little tide pool right in front of the pile. So then I got access to all that water. Before, I used to always be walking back and forth to the ocean to get the water, and now I've figured out I can just build this little tide pool in front of me, and I always have quick access to all that water. And the key is to get a good foundation, so I would just dig a hole, put some sand on the pile and tamp it down, put some more sand on, stomp it down. And then once I got up to this point to where this pile was like a foot or so tall, I wanted to get the part where I'm going to be doing more sandcastle carving on it, and I wanted the sand grains to be real fine so I could get more detail in the carving. So that's where I couldn't just use the sand that I was digging out from right next to it, because it was real shelly, bigger chunks of sand. So I went out a little further to get this finer sand and piled up that finer sand for the upper portion that's going to have the more detailed carving stuff on it. And as I was out there picking up sand off of the beach, we saw a dolphin out there swimming around. Tristan pointed it out. I didn't see anybody else looking at it, but we were watching it. I saw it pop its dorsal fin up a few times. Tristan got to watch it a little bit more than I did. I saw it a little bit though. It's so cool to see him out there. That was the first one I've seen out there in a few weeks. It's kind of neat. Then we saw another one a little bit later. I don't know if I got that part on video, seeing the other dolphin. But I just continued grabbing some more sand. You can see it's real wet. It's good to have lots of moisture in the sand. It helps keep it together. Kind of like you're creating the rough stone that you're gonna do a stone carving out of. And then I got this bucket that I custom made. I cut it in half and put some little ties on it so that it would tie together, hold together, and then I could untie just those two little things, and it would come apart and come off. Because if you just try to pull it straight off over the top, it's just going to break all the sand apart, and then you won't have a good base of sand to work with. It might work a little bit on that little bucket, but if I tried to pull that full 5-gallon bucket off, it would just break all the sand apart. So there I got my base made. I got built up with the bucket, adding some water on, and then I'm going to go wash off in the water, and I'll come back and start carving it here in a little bit. I took a little break. I washed off all the sand in the ocean. I went out, got all wet, and then cleaned off, and now I'm gonna get all sandy again. I got down and pulled the bucket off, and then I started carving this sandcastle. It's just like you're carving a piece of rock. You kind of have to come from the top and work your way down, so you kind of have to picture what it's gonna look like before you start carving. Kind of do it a little bit at a time. I picture what the next little level is gonna look like, the next little level. Right here is where people start getting interested and start watching a little bit more. All that packing down stuff nobody really seems to care about, but once you get to this point, you get some people coming up and asking you questions and whatnot about it. I hadn't planned on just getting a little bucket of water and kind of splashing a little bit of water on it. I had a little sprayer, like one of those pump sprayers that you pump down, it builds up pressure in the bucket and then you spray it off. Actually got one of those. A friend gave one to me, but I just couldn't get it working. So I'm gonna have to try to see if I can get that thing working for the next time. Because it'd be nice to have just a nice mist of water that you could mist over it, and you could get your details better. So I kind of was lacking a little bit on the details. I was gonna do like some stone, faux stone facings and brickwork and stuff in there, but I couldn't really get that too well without having nice moist sand to work on. Because then every time you scrape some, you just end up with like chunks of dry sand all over the place. It was hard to get good detail. So next time, hopefully if I get that water sprayer working, that part will be better. But the basic structure of it was looking good. I was working here. I made my logo. You can see that the logo is a circle with 2 arrows. One little arrow going down, one coming up. And then I think this part is where my big sandcastle fan showed up and started looking at my sandcastle. Did you make that with your hands? It cracks me up. You could ask some funny questions, and he says some funny statements coming up. You gotta keep listening to what he says. The tools I was using to do the carving was like an old little short knife, like a paring knife, I guess. And I had an old like flat piece of metal. I think it must have been like a little, I don't know what it is, like a little 1/2 inch wide, 1/16 of an inch thick little piece of metal. Maybe it was an old bracket and I flattened it out. And I just used those mostly, and those little buckets full of water. Just carved it out and just kept thinking about what the next level was going to be, and carved a little bit more off and cut it a little bit more off. You got to get the upper part first, because if I was still working on that upper part, that would just drop a bunch of sand on the next stuff that I was trying to work on. So I had to kind of have it planned out ahead of time, which is, I mean, you kind of do it as you go, but you plan, what's the next thing I'm going to do? That's kind of what your mind has got to be thinking. Right here, I was getting pretty darn tired, so I was just trying to get it done. Get a basic structure done. I didn't want to do a whole bunch of detail down on this lower part. Plus, there was the really shelly sand down here on this lower part, so I couldn't do a ton of detail on that part. So here my little sandcastle buddy spotted me again working on this. He's been in and out watching me and playing in the sand and playing in the water. But here he spotted me again and he came up to say what he wanted to say about it. I told him I was just gonna let the ocean put water in it later when it came back up. And he was confused by that. He didn't understand that the ocean was gonna come back up to that point. I don't know if he thought the ocean was just gonna go down and then be down there forever. Then he came back again. So I know what it feels like to be Taylor Swift, with people constantly harassing you like you're Swifties. This guy was a Swiftie for sure.
You're never gonna let anyone touch it, right? No one, right? Like how did you make that? That looks so amazing. That's so amazing. That's so amazing, right? I can never see anyone do that. It takes a lot of time. Like, does it take 20 hours and 50 minutes? A few hours. Like how many hours?
Well, my little Swiftie was pretty cute. I wasn't annoyed by it at all. I thought it was funny. And at the very end, when we were packing up, whenever you leave the beach, you're supposed to smash all your sandcastles and flatten out your sand again for the sea turtles. It's sea turtle season. When they come up on the beach, they like to have a nice flat beach. If they were to see a big sandcastle like that, it might freak them out and they might turn around and not lay their eggs and lose their one chance. So you're supposed to flatten out your beach. And when we were leaving, we got all packed up and that kid came back by and he's like, so I told him about how you're supposed to flatten the sandcastles and how the turtles need it, the beach all flat. And I told him, do you want to smash this sandcastle? He was so excited he got to smash it. So he smashed it and then I helped him to flatten out the sand. But since he was such a big fan, I thought I would let him do the honors of smashing the castle. But that's pretty much the story. You can see I went for a little bit of the old drip castles around the edge just to make a combo of the drip castles and the carved castle. The drip ones are fun. You just dig down deep enough to where you can get to the water and then you pull out some wet sand with your hand and you just let it drip down onto it. I would normally probably put music on this and let you listen to music while I finish it up, but this time I'm just gonna let you listen to the sound of the ocean and the people playing in the water. And it's been fun. This was a fun sandcastle to make, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you guys make your own sandcastles someday. They're super fun. They're a lot of work though. It's good exercise.
all around it.
Man, you're so good up there. Dude, you're an artist.
Where did you get your copies?
He built that.